All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. Glad that you're with us. Can't do the show without you. What a 24-hour news cycle. So we have been covering the riots all week. We've been covering, everything that's going on, who's funding it. We've been asking. Now we have these reports that the Trump administration is investigating the riot funders. Where's the start? Everyone's racing for Saturday. And while this is all going on, we now have these reports that Israel is going to strike Iran. Now, the question is, if this happens, what kind of strike will it be? Will the U.S. give them the weapons? Obviously, I know they've already given them weapons, but will the U.S. give them the type of weapons, or will it be a U.S.-backed war where they actually try to take out their nuclear facilities? At least conventional wisdom says that you've got to have bigger bombs, U.S. bombs, to actually get to the level, because these nuclear facilities are, reportedly underground. So while America is burning, and while there's probably going to be more examples of America burning across the country in the next 3 or 4 days, we may get sucked into a war here. Again, we'll talk about that here in a minute, because I think if that happens, the MAGA coalition is going to absolutely shatter. Because my number one reason for voting for Donald Trump was I don't want the U.S. to get dragged into a war in the Middle East. So we're going to talk about that today. Also, if I have time, I want to cover the developments at the Southern Baptist Convention, and I really am going to do my best to try to make time, because there is some stuff I want to talk about there, just in terms of censorship. It just seems very, very odd. But we're going to start. Before we go any further, I do want to remind you this portion of the broadcast brought to you by Red Vive Health, redvivehealth.org/Paul, and the Father's Day sale continues, where you can stack the codes and save 30% off of these, I think, life-saving, life-enhancing red light technology from Red Vive. And here in just a minute, we're going to be talking with a guy who has the world record for the 50-mile run. He's an ultra-marathon runner. His name's Charlie Lawrence, and I sat down with him yesterday to record this for you, and he uses Red Vive machines in order to stay in peak physical condition, in order to hold the world record for the 50-mile run, which is insane to me. The idea of anybody running 50 miles is just absolutely nuts to me. But the human body's a miraculous thing. So we do that here in a minute, tell you more about that. Let's start with a tip that I got last night, and I tweeted this out for all to see. I can report suspicious buses and clientele at a hotel in Grovetown, Georgia. This is close to Augusta, Georgia. Are these people going to be bussed into Riot in the next few days? My source, so what I did here is, I've got, here's Augusta, and then here is Grovetown. You see how close they are to each other. This was the address at the hotel, this Comfort Inn. Is that what it is? A Hampton Inn. And then this was a photo of the buses. And source tipped off the program here that it just felt like that the people there, the clientele were basically paid political activists, is what I could say. And so the nation is bracing for this while the Trump administration says they have receipts. Tulsi Gabbard has said she's got receipts. But once again, the American people are going to be wanting to know, where are the arrests? Elon Musk retweeted this from a guy who claims he was offered $200 a day to go protest in New York City. Let's listen to this.
I just got offered $200 a day to go protest ICE in New York. The organization was called No Kings. They said June 14th we're going to be protesting, and these are the streets that you need to be on, and this is what you need to do. You need to cause chaotic disruptions, and they said that there's going to be pallets of like bricks and different things everywhere that protesters could use. They really want to wreak havoc. It's kind of ridiculous. Me as an American, although I need the money, I'm like, this is very, very unpatriotic. If I was to go take this money and go protest, It's not very American. It's not what I stand for. It's obviously not even, worth the time. But, $200 a day is what they're paying people to go protest. The corruption is up here because it goes way beyond these organizations. They want to destroy America, and people like me that need money are gonna go do it. I'm not gonna go do it, but people are gonna go do it. They're gonna go destroy, the city and cause chaos. It's just crazy that, they're even paying people to go do this. It just goes to show that everything we deal with is corruption, and these people at the top level, like, who's paying for this? There's got to be some billionaires paying for this so that, they could try to get Trump out or something. But, $200 a day to go cause chaos is, like, crazy. Not worth it, but also, like, really fucked up.
Sorry for that four-letter word there. We try to keep a clean show here. But, yeah, I mean, if you look at the optics, the question has got to be asked, who exactly is funding this? Administration says they're investigating. We need arrests immediately. We need to be, people need to be made examples of immediately. You don't just have to, you do need to confront the rioters head on. Of course, they all want another George Floyd situation, something else to rally around. And all this is happening, by the way, as the intelligence is saying, the reports are that the intelligence is saying that Israel's going to go to war with Iran. This is after months of Trump saying he wants peace, not just in the Middle East, but also Ukraine. And now we have, our cities are now set to be burned to the ground in this country. You can say when it rains, it pours, for sure. But is this just a coincidence that these two events are happening at the same time? Come on. My intuition says absolutely not. I think people, well, let's just say that the intel oligarchs are alive and well. And, but, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Jack Posobiec writing that Trump is winning big on immigration right now and riding high in the polls. An attack on Iran could change the entire narrative and split the MAGA coalition. America supports mass deportation. I think he's exactly right. But earlier, Donald Trump tweeted this, or put this on Truth Social. Our great farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business have been stating that our very aggressive policy on immigration is taking very good long-time workers away from them, with those jobs being almost impossible to replace. In many cases, the criminals allowed into our country by the very stupid Biden open borders policy are applying for those jobs. This is not good. We must protect our farmers, but get the criminals out of the USA. And then he says changes are coming. This has got many people out there very distressed. And also at a time when you've got Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, essentially saying, look, quit arresting people and the riots will stop. Some sort of mayoral extortion here. Well, we'll quit burning the city down if you'll quit enforcing immigration law. And look, I know the people, I get it. There's a distinction between, people on a farm and the people that are throwing bricks at cop cars. I get that. But doesn't this, in the midst of this conflict, doesn't making a statement like this actually hurt your argument that now you're going to weaken the very, very, if you're here illegally, you got to go stance that you've been taking? I certainly think it does weaken that stance, and that's why people are very upset about this. I've seen a lot of people, I'm upset about it. It's an extremely disappointing statement from President Trump. Obviously, there's an issue for farmers or hotel owners, but the issue that they're dealing with now is because they've been dependent on illegals, and this whole movement is to try to undo that, is to try to drive wages up for Americans that can do those jobs. Matt Walsh writing, employers who knowingly rely on illegal immigrant labor should be in prison. Instead, we're going to back off of immigration enforcement for their sake? Hell no, we can't tolerate this. So that's not good. It's extremely disappointing. Now, to this, the FBI now says the arrest of the man handing out bionic shields. So this guy who was handing out bionic shields, they have
Today we
found who he
executed a
is.
search warrant on the individual who was seen earlier this week distributing face shields to suspected rioters down in Los Angeles. We have made it a huge priority to try to identify, locate, and arrest those who are involved in organizing, supporting, funding, or facilitating these riots that they're going on. It appears they're well orchestrated and coordinated and well funded, so we want to understand who these people are and where this organization is coming from. And today was one of those first arrests, the key arrests that we did.
Okay. Yep. So that's good. Rod Martin writing, breaking massive FBI investigation into L.A. riots, CCP connections exposed. Patel launches major probe into who's really funding the L.A. immigration riots. They're saying that one of them is direct links to a pro-Beijing tech billionaire named Neville Roy Singham uncovered, funding two major communist organizations behind the riots. What else do we have here? George Soros is involved in it too, so we know that. So anyway, we have another. Let's see, where's the Tulsi Gabbard? Here's the clip of Tulsi Gabbard.
The bottom line is they don't care about the American people. They don't even care about the people that they're claiming to protest for. So many of them are paid protesters. This thing is being orchestrated, obviously, in many ways. And ultimately, President Trump is the one who took action to keep the American people safe and try to bring peace back to the streets that these rioters are destroying. The bottom line is they don't care about the American people. They don't even care about the people that they're claiming to protest for.
So in that clip, she doesn't say it. The description here, the LA riots are orchestrated, and she has the receipts. Back to this Rod Martin post. Singham spotted at a Chinese propaganda forum in Shanghai. Congress is now involved. Grassley demanding investigation into foreign agent registration. Luna confirms House Oversight Committee using formal requests to Singham. All of this isn't happening fast enough, though. Whoever is behind it, that Chirla organization, they're behind this as well. And then they scrubbed their side of the board of directors, and then you also have that organization, Chirla, I think, even got money from Act Blue. And Act Blue is this, organization that left their credit card, didn't secure their credit card servers, and were able to receive, foreign donations for months and months and months last year, thwarting federal law. Here's kind of a funny note, I guess. Derek Evans says that it's being reported that someone is placing MAGA stickers on the protesters' cars in an attempt to make them turn on each other and destroy one another's vehicles. That is kind of clever. Anyway, then we have more. So Tom Homan sits down with Dr. Phil, of all people, to talk about what really sparked the LA riots to begin with. And so when we talk about who's funding this, you have somebody saying, okay, sympathetic people to communist China are funding it. Then you have somebody saying that it's, Chirla or whatever. And but it also could be the Mexican drug cartels because they obviously have a lot of money. And so they're saying that the riots actually kicked off. They actually started. And this is just one theory. They started because there was an investigation into companies, cartel-backed companies, and money laundering, and that's what really kicked this off. Let's watch this.
This warehouse and retail outlet that you served warrants on, the belief is, and the evidence suggests, that this is a cartel-related business here in the United States, that this money, the $80 million that they are suspected of undervaluing, the double-digit millions in tariffs that they are suspected and will be charged with violations on, income tax evasion. You believe that all of that is benefiting an illegal cartel. a cartel in Mexico or Colombia? Do you know which cartel?
No, it's a larger investigation, and this company is one of many that we're searching and gathering evidence on the fact that much of the money in this industry is laundered to Colombia and Mexico in support of cartel activities. We also got tax evasion, and we also got customs fraud. And ICE, big part of ICE responsibilities are customs laws, customs enforcement. So this is one business out of many we're looking at. So it's a part of a bigger investigation. And as we gather more and more evidence, then we'll decide what we want to criminally prosecute, specifically for.
Now, in front of
they're saying, the other reports we talked about yesterday, that basically, if you've seen the movie or the series Breaking Bad, it looks like they've stumbled upon, a Gus Fring's fried chicken operation of some kind, but maybe much bigger than that. And then we've got, you've got Chrissy Walton, the billionaire, Walmart issuing a statement yesterday condemning violence, saying they don't support violence, and making clear that, this Walmart heiress, billionaire heiress, does not speak for Walmart, and they have nothing to do with her when it comes to this. And so, that's certainly a positive development. And Laura Loomer was the one that broke that story about Walmart issuing the statement. So my immediate reaction was, are there any Walmarts near urban environments that are supposed to get violent? Because those Walmarts may very well get totally destroyed this weekend. We'll see. Again, these protests are planned all across the nation under this No Kings. Here is an image of Seattle. Seattle PD moves in on anti-ICE rioters outside the federal building in Seattle. So it's not just LA. Things are heating up all over the country. Why don't all the officers have bikes? You see some guy macing somebody. Why are they using their bikes as weapons or like shields? Is that it just seems very cumbersome. All right, so we're going to see images like this, continue to see images like this all across the country in the next few days. And one of the reasons this is being financed and is done is because they hope that a George Floyd, hands up, don't shoot, Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, you just go through the list and name them. They hope one of these is going to happen organically. And if it doesn't happen organically, I think it's going to happen in a planned format. And whatever happens, this is a color revolution. And so in 2014, when the U.S. overthrew the government of Ukraine because it was too Eastern-friendly and they wanted a Western-friendly government, they created the opposition, and then they had the opposition fire into the crowd on their own people and then blamed the government forces for it. That was one of the reasons that they used to oust the elected president of Ukraine. I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. So in these situations, and that's what's so funny, like they're paying these people $200 a day. One of the Craigslist ads says $6,000 a week for some of them. They're paying these people, but they view them as expendable. And if to accomplish the narrative or the political goal, they will easily stage a false flag and blame it on the feds. That is, if it doesn't just happen organically because of the violence and everything else. This is a huge test for Donald Trump, and this is not a time to say, hey, we're going to stop the raids on farms and hotels. A really terrible piece of advice that he got, in my opinion. Dan Bongino writing about the guy who was caught, is this the bionic face shield guy, handing out that equipment? This is the thing. I'd love to know how he answers questions in an interrogation room, like who gave you the shields, who do you work for, who's funding you, who's paying you. The driver who went viral for dropping off face shield or bionic shield face mask to LA rioters was arrested by the FBI in a sting at his home this morning, according to Matt Finn. Alejandro Orellana Orellana was taken into custody on suspicion of conspiracy to commit civil disorders. And in all of this, just to kind of show you, yesterday we showed you the Katy Perry, the occult pop singer. We showed you her posting about, how Los Angeles was originally given a very, very long Spanish name, and how that's Mexico's land. And, of course, she doesn't know. Tim Pool said, she doesn't know that Spain is actually in Europe. All these people ignoring that it was the Spanish that colonized. Anyway, but she's not the only pop star. There's others, or that weird that weird girl who deleted all of her strange tweets about children, Chrissy Teigen. She's out now saying, "Oh, we're so upset about how these rioters are being treated and that everything else." So all of that's going on. They literally are unleashing all of their influencers, but they're not just influencing their big ones, not just the big, Illuminati, pagan, occult witches. They're not just unleashing those. They're also funneling it down to just your average TikTokers that have decent to large following. Somebody made this. Colin Rugg made this. I believe it was him. Made this kind of this montage. He writes, "There appears to be a coordinated messaging campaign spreading throughout TikTok where large creators have released nearly identical statements on the ICE raids. Many large creators are releasing extremely similar statements where they share they shame other creators for not speaking out against the raids. The creators tell other people they're bad people unless they post videos of themselves condemning the raids, the immigration raids, enforcing the law. Many are regurgitating the same phrases, comparing jaywalking to illegal immigration, for example. Some users are beginning to question whether the posts are organic or not." No, they're being paid. They are being paid to say these things. Let's listen to this montage of these different girls with large followings on TikTok say the exact same thing.
"Being in a country that you're in illegally is a civil offense, not a criminal one. You know what else is a civil offense? Jaywalking.
And being undocumented is not a criminal offense. It's a civil one. And if you've ever jaywalked, congratulations, because you've also committed a civil offense."
Have you ever sped over the speed limit? Have you ever drank or smoked underage? Have you ever drank and then driven a car? What about jaywalking?
Being undocumented in America is a civil offense. It's not a criminal one. It's the same caliber of crime as a traffic offense.
Just a reminder, in case anyone forgot, being undocumented is a civil offense, not a criminal one.
If you've so much as littered on public property, I never want to hear, "Oh, but they broke a law," as a justification for your hate.
If these influencers are choosing not to use their platforms, let's force them to. I'm tired of all these influencers not speaking up right now because things are happening right now in our own backyards, and some of these people are staying quiet.
I'm taking note of clocking in and following every single LA-based creator who is completely ignoring what's going on.
Where the fuck are all these loudmouth ass celebrities and influencers when they get on this internet and they dropping music, or they're dropping a collab, or they're dropping a motherfucking beauty kit, or they're dropping a motherfucking perfume? Baby, people are getting snatched up in the United States.
All right, so you get the point. Again, I apologize for the foul language there. This is they're rolling out every resource that they possibly can. Right? They are making sure that they have their propaganda outlets in full flux. So who is funding this? Who's funding that? Who's funding the riots? Who's making the shields that look like protest signs but are really plywood on the other side? So, yeah, the Trump administration is investigating this, but this is moving entirely too slow. Entirely too slow. Something's got to be done. And, again, this is a huge test. Will this be 2020 all over again? I will say this. I'm kind of concerned. I get that Donald Trump sent the National Guard in. That's great. I get that they've, got Marines on standby, or they've deployed Marines and everything else. And I get that right now things would be a whole lot worse in L.A. had that not happened. I believe all of that. But it seems like the administration is already taking a victory lap, when I think there's still a lot more work to be done to quell the unrest. Again, one thing to protest, but I don't know. I don't want this to be the summer of love in 2020 all over again. And this Saturday, it looks like that's what's going to kick off. And so, what are we doing to stop any of this? Again, protest, that's one thing, but like, what are we doing to when it turns violent? Like, how are you going to do what's necessary in order to quell the violence? Are we a nation or are we not a nation? Like this whole border thing, this whole border controversy that's been on the American people's minds for decades, but really let's just take 2015, the campaign of Trump. I mean, this whole thing was, if you don't have a border, you don't have a country. Okay, now we have a little bit better of a border, still not as secure, but border crossings are way down. Deportations have started, and now the reaction of the sanctuary cities is essentially one of revolt. So I don't think you should just let the cities burn. I'm not that person, because I think they're, just because they're controlled by leftists, I think there's still people in there that are, they're being terrorized. I mean, this is domestic terrorism. This is funding domestic terrorism under the guise of a First Amendment protest. And it's insane. So something's got to happen, and it's got to happen quick. Very, very quick. All right, folks, I told you earlier I sat down with Charlie Lawrence, and now's where I want to tell you about Red Vive Health. So here we go. All right, folks, so you've heard me talk about this a lot. Obviously, I'm a big fan of red light therapy, and there's a huge sale going on right now because of Father's Day. To kind of drive the point home, though, I wanted to give you guys some more context about just how effective this red light therapy is. And so with anything, if you look at athletes, they've got to be performing at the top of their game all the time, especially professional athletes. So would you believe it or not that the guy who holds the world record in long-distance marathon runs by the name of Charlie Lawrence uses Red Vive machines, and he's a big fan of red light therapy. So I wanted to invite him on the program. Charlie Lawrence, welcome to the Millstone Report, sir. Thank you so much for being with us.
What's up, man? Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So the 50-mile world record, you actually hold the world record in the 50-mile run?
Yes, sir. Yep, broke it November 2023, so I have it almost 2 years running now. So, yeah, 5:46 mile pace for 50 straight miles.
That's incredible. That is absolutely insane. Okay, so red light therapy, what is that? Is that kind of a daily thing? Do you use red light every day as part of your regimen to stay in this type of peak athletic shape?
Every day, 2 times a day. So for me, I just have it. So I'm sitting at my dinner table, just right here. So my doctor, Joel Baumgartner, out of Rejuve Medical, Wake Park, Minnesota, actually put me on last December. He'd always kind of recommended it, but I had PRP on my left Achilles. I had partially torn left Achilles kind of all fall last year. Went to go see him for PRP, and then he's like, yo, I want you in the clinic every single day, doing red light, doing recovery, doing all this, like, just kind of recovery modalities, have my eyes on you. So he had me using it religiously for a week, and then finally he just kind of connected me with the Red Vibe team. I actually reached out on my own too, and now we have a mutual friend who connected us here, but was able to set me up with a Red Vibe red light therapy, and I use it every single day. Honestly, for me, it's just about optimizing everything. It's kind of a numbers game when you get to this level. What can you optimize? And one thing is obviously recover, because the more you can recover, the harder you can train and continually do that. So for me, it's also kind of injury prevention, inflammation prevention, especially in my left Achilles, because I still kind of feel it almost every single day. But this, I'll wake up, have breakfast, turn it on, and almost, obviously I do foam rolling and all that and band work prior to running. But even before I do all that, the red light right on for 10 minutes almost makes it feel kind of go away. Because when I wake up in the morning, it's usually a little stiffer, my Achilles is, so it helps to kind of warm it up. Obviously, the collagen synthesis is great to get rolling in the morning. Kind of warms it up, and then kind of get ready to start running. So it's how I use it, but been using it, I said, religiously now for, we're in June of 2025. So for 6 months, 20 minutes every day. Let's say I have like a little niggle, like my back gets tight, or like, I have my quads are a little tired. Also just can throw it on my quads for an extra, 5-10 minutes too, beyond my Achilles. But that's how I use it in my daily routine.
Yeah, well, obviously you can tell I'm not in peak athletic form, but I was at an 8-year-old's birthday party the other day, and I had to stand for like 3 hours. And
miserable.
Man, yeah, and I got this like crick in my neck, and I was like, I know exactly what I'm doing when I'm going home. And I, sat in front of the red light machine for 20 minutes, and you get an immediate like kind of like an analgesic relief from it. But then I slept on it, and everything was fine the next day. My body really responded to that. My question to you, Charlie Lawrence, somebody who is this incredible athlete, again, 50-mile world record, long distance runner, marathon runner, ultra marathon runner. When you first heard of the technology, did you think it sounded too good to be true? Because I get a lot of that, because as I go down the list of the scientific benefits of the studies, it seems like it could be snake oil. It's clearly not. But were you surprised, or did you believe it right away, or did you have to try it for yourself?
Truth be told, my doctor, Joe Baumgartner, like kind of whatever he says goes. For me, at least in my book, I've worked with him since 2009 even, since like early high school, and I'm 30 now. So coming up on basically 15 years of knowing him. Whatever I have issue-wise, injury-wise, like I shoot him a text just for his opinion. Especially when I run, obviously 50-mile competing at that distance. I run up to 150 miles a week sometimes getting ready for that. So unfortunately, a lot of injuries pop up. You're susceptible to that. So anything that he believes in, I'm always game to try. And so right away he was like, yo, you need to definitely get one of these. I went out and obviously was connected to Red Vibe and went out and got one basically instantly right when I came back from PRP. So, yeah,
well, that's good. I mean, I know they've got partnerships with doctors or whatever, but that's in this day and age, it's rare, I think, for doctors to be that in tune with what I would just say is alternative technology that kind of goes against the grain of the medical industrial complex. We've talked about that before, how some of the orthopedic, patient to surgery pipeline, not so much of a fan of Red Vive technology because of, it could make your pocketbook a little lighter. So that's always a possibility here where you get into this stuff. So I think that's very good that the doctor actually recommended it. Did he tell you anything about what it does to the cells or the mitochondria or anything like that? Did he explain it, or you just said, no, he said do it, so I'm going to do it?
Oh, the full run. Yeah. I mean, he went into depth. Like, he's not just going to tell me to go pick something up if it's, again, kind of the snake oil pitch. So, and obviously I'd heard about it, done my research, fan of it, obviously just kind of needed to pull the trigger and get one. So, again, fortunately I was just connected with, Matt Troy at Red Vibe and was able to set me up with one. But yeah, no, I guess I'll back up. For me personally, surgery is the last option. I'm kind of at the peak of my career at this point. The next really 4 to 6 years is these are the money years. I need to be running as much as possible and staying healthy. So for that, it's what tools, multiple tools can I use to help me stay healthy and recover, and prevent injuries. And that's one that you can easily add to my repertoire. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, kind of a no-brainer.
So I've got a question, and forgive me of my ignorance, but so when you do these 50-mile runs or these ultra marathons, are they at different locations? I'm sure they are, with different terrain and stuff, or is it mainly just flat? How does it, or is it through cities like they do the Boston Marathon? Or what's the coolest location you've ever ran at, I guess would be my question.
Oh man, I mean, I grew up a track cross country runner in high school. Obviously competed collegiately, ran for the Minnesota Gophers there. So you got to travel around the country. Now at this point, I've gotten to travel around the world to run. I mean, coolest place, I'm trying to think. It's kind of, I don't want to say cool, but where I broke the 50-mile world record, obviously it's kind of a special place to me at this point. But it was in Vienna, Illinois, kind of middle of nowhere, the southern tip. Actually flew into Nashville, then drove over. And that was a flat, fast 50-mile race. I've raced in Bangalore, India. Not necessarily kind of a cool destination, not necessarily the best place for a race per se. But that was definitely a cool experience.
Yeah.
I was actually injured going in. That was actually my Achilles. So right after that was when I got PRP, and then really started, nuking it with the red light here. But
like it.
Obviously, cool place. I've been to Lithuania. I've been to Germany a few times. I mean, you throw a dart at the U.S. I've probably been to that state. So it's taken me some pretty cool places and let me do some pretty cool things.
Well, Charlie Lawrence, I appreciate you coming on and sharing why you think red light therapy is the way to go, how it works for you. And if it's doing this, folks, for a superior professional athlete, who holds this world record, just imagine what it could do for you and your aches and pains, and get off this big pharma medical industrial hamster wheel where they want you to be a lifelong customer. There are clinical strength red light panels that you can get in your home. And right now, through Father's Day, you can use my link and save 15% and then stack the Father's 15 discount to save 30% right now for a limited time, through Father's Day. So take advantage of this. I know people have been sitting on the fence, because they're not cheap, but I think they're well worth it for your health. And that's why I want this audience to know about it. Charlie Lawrence, thank you so much for coming on the program. I really appreciate it, and keep us posted in everything it is that you're doing. And congratulations on the world record. That's incredible.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Got to go get more now. So.
All right, thanks. All right, folks, we'll be back here in just a minute.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows, only $14.98. Queens, $18.98. King size, only $1 more. Body pillows, $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
All right, folks, welcome back. I want to remind you, MyPillow.com, there's the promo code, my promo code PH. Huge summer savings right now, up to 80% off. So MyPillow.com, go there now and experiment. They got great stuff there. I like the towels. I mean, we have the sheets. I have the pillow. Obviously, the pillow is, that's the golden goose. That's the anchor of it all. The pillow's great. But the towels, I personally, I like the towels. They're just soft, They got all these different colors. We just buy the white ones. But anyway, so yeah, we're going to continue with the rest of the program, and the rest of the show brought to you by Curable Premium Health, Curable Premium CBD oils, CBD creams, CBD tinctures, CBD soaks. We'll tell you more about all of that here coming up. But first, let's get back to the show, shall we? We have this is disturbing. Dominic Michael Trippi saying U.S. intel officials concerned Israel may strike Iran without U.S. consent. Now, if we give consent and we even loan them the bombs or put the bombs on our planes and go over there and actually these bunker busting bombs, this is going to potentially destroy and upend Donald Trump's anti-war legacy. I even think, and I've seen many people already say this, that a U.S.-backed Iran war will divide MAGA, will shatter MAGA. There's already all these polls out there of people asking that. Many people, especially if you think about the 7 swing states. I saw this post, I can't remember who. This is why Donald Trump won the 7 swing states. It's one of the reasons why, for sure, is that the idea is we need peace. We don't want more and more war. And so here is Donald Trump earlier today. President Trump, this was right before I came on the air. I saw this. I actually haven't listened to it. I just bookmarked it and threw it up because I knew we'd get to it. Here was Donald Trump earlier today.
Well, I don't want to say imminent, but it looks like it's something that could very well happen. Look, it's very simple, not complicated. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Other than that, I want them to be successful. I want them to be tremendous. We'll help them be successful. We'll trade with them. We'll do whatever is necessary. I stopped a war between India and Pakistan, and I stopped it with trade. I don't think I've ever seen a story written about it, but it was pretty cool. They were getting ready. Pakistan was their turn to hit, and eventually they're going to go nuclear. And I stopped it. I called each. I respect each leader greatly. I know them. And I spoke to them, and I talked about trade. I said, but you're not trading with us if you're going to go to war, if you're going to start throwing nuclear weapons around. And I said it to both of them, and they were both unbelievable, actually. They understood it exactly. They stopped. I stopped that war with phone calls and trade. And India's here right now negotiating a trade deal, and Pakistan's coming, I think, next week. And I'm very proud of that. Nobody died. Nobody, the nuclear weapons, they each have very severe, very substantial numbers of nuclear weapons. And I think we should get some credit for that. You know, the whole Republican Party should, because that's their mindset. Please.
So, I mean, in that exchange, Donald Trump is still saying, again, this is the first time I actually listened to it. It seems like he's still saying, yeah, I mean, it could happen. Iran doesn't need a nuclear weapon, but I still want peace. I want to do this peacefully. Israel, obviously, does not want there to be a peaceful solution here. That much is clear. You can go back to the Mike Waltz. You can go back to the reports of, how the Trump administration disagreed with Benjamin Netanyahu. Said, we want time to negotiate this. So this happens at a time when American cities are burning, L.A., and other cities are expected to burn here in a few days. And all of this is going on now internationally. So to say it's an inconvenient time is an understatement. But here we are. So let's Jack Posobiec, a direct strike on Iran right now would disastrously split the Trump coalition. Trump smartly ran against starting new wars. This is why the swing states. Okay, so this is where I saw the tweet. I knew I had it somewhere. I didn't know who said it, but it was Jack. So, yeah, that's exactly right. And you also have to think about what's going to happen to American troops. This is why the embassies have been cleared out. This is why our military bases, according to reports, have been cleared out of family members. So, the idea, Israel attacks Iran, then Iran launches missiles, some of them hit U.S. military bases, and now we're in the war. We need to pray for peace. We need to pray that Donald Trump's public statements about negotiations and peace are held to, are advanced, and are not undermined by people within the administration and outside of it, like people like Mark Levin, who are begging for another war in the Middle East that won't make Mark Levin's life change one way or the other, regardless of what happens. Now, talk about people around the Trump administration. Obviously, Mitch McConnell is not one of those, but I want you to listen to this. Now, we're going to switch gears here and go to Ukraine for a second, and then we're going to go back. But Pete Hegseth was questioned by a very, very elderly man who needs to resign, but from what I can tell, Mitch McConnell finds his identity in his job. Mitch McConnell should be retired to a farm in Kentucky enjoying his grandchildren, but instead he just doubles down and remains in the Senate. Here's Pete Hegseth and Mitch McConnell.
One thing I'm sure we agree on is we don't want a headline at the end of this conflict that says Russia wins and America loses. And given the fact that all of our adversaries are communicating with each other, that's extremely important if we're going to continue to play the role in the world that the vast majority of members of Congress think we should still play, particularly now that our adversaries are more significant than they have been since the Berlin Wall came down. With regard to the money we're spending, what's the return on the investment of our security?
Man, what a man out of time. What a man out of his time. What a man clinging to his ideology that is now just completely out of step with a lot of the American people. It really is sad using these, 2001 talking points. Well, what are we going to do? if there's a headline that says Russia wins. Fact of the matter is, Ukraine is losing. Ukraine is losing. Ukraine never had a chance at winning the war. And the people that were all about sending money to Ukraine were doing so, in some cases, willingly, knowing that the Ukrainian soldier was an expendable thing. This was all a proxy war. But what McConnell is saying here is that it's even more than that. This is also an informational war. This is also a war of the headlines, a war of images, and the fact that Russia must be looked at as some, third world, second-rate military power compared to the U.S., and we just can't let them have that headline when Russia always had the superior military compared to Ukraine. Always. Even with the stuff that we sent them. They have hypersonic missiles. They have way more people. That alone means that Ukraine's not going to win. So what a man out of time.
Assistance to Ukraine.
Senator, I would just say, given the approach of President Trump, that's not the headline, regardless. The previous administration, under the Obama administration, Crimea was invaded, and we gave them blankets. Under President Trump, during his first term, he gave the Ukrainians javelins, and the Russians did not invade. Under Biden, the Russians did invade, and aid was slow-walked, incompletely, and as a result, it became a gridlock. Thankfully, the javelins that President Trump provided actually stalled the Russian advance. Now we are at a place where Vladimir Putin knows that President Trump is strong. He knows his word means something, and as a result, a negotiated peace in Ukraine makes America look strong, makes us look like we understand the state of the world and where we want to be focused. Even if we understand that Russia's the aggressor and we applaud the efforts of the Ukrainians, there is a moment where you have to recognize what exists on the battlefield and that a better outcome is a negotiated peace to stop the killing and stop the slaughter.
Don't agree with all of that, but that is a United States Secretary of Defense saying, actually, Senator, peace. Peace is what we want. That's ideal. Peace is how America wins. So Tulsi Gabbard is under fire right now because she's come out, I know this is crazy, she's come out against nuclear war.
I recently visited Hiroshima in Japan and stood at the epicenter of a city that remains scarred by the unimaginable horror caused by a single nuclear bomb dropped in 1945, 80 years ago. It's hard for me to find the words to express what I saw, the stories that I heard, the haunting sadness that still remains. This is an experience that will stay with me forever. This attack obliterated the city, killed over 300,000 people, many dying instantly while others died from severe burns, injuries, radiation sickness, and cancer that set in the following months and years. Nagasaki suffered the same fate. Homes, schools, families, all gone in a flash. The survivors, the hibakusha, they carried the pain of extreme burns, radiation sickness, and loss for decades. Survivors of this attack were asked to put in paintings and drawings their own memories and how they felt and what they saw, and those paintings and the suffering that they conveyed, the pain and the sense of loss were almost more powerful than the photos themselves. Yet this one bomb that caused so much destruction on Hiroshima was tiny compared to today's nuclear bombs. The bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima had a yield of just 15 kilotons of TNT, whereas today's nuclear warheads range in size from 100 kilotons to over 1 megaton. A single nuclear weapon today could kill millions in just minutes. Just one of these nuclear bombs would vaporize everything at its core: people, buildings, life itself. The shockwave would crush structures miles away, killing and maiming countless people. And then comes the fallout. Radioactive poison spreading through the air, water, and soil, condemning survivors to agonizing deaths or lifelong suffering.
A nuclear winter could follow, with smoke and ash completely blocking the sun, plunging the world into darkness and cold, killing crops and starving billions. Acid rain would scar the earth, wiping out entire ecosystems. This isn't some made-up science fiction story. This is the reality of what's at stake, what we are facing now. Because as we stand here today, closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation than ever before, political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers. Perhaps it's because they are confident that they will have access to nuclear shelters for themselves and for their families that regular people won't have access to. So it's up to us, the people, to speak up and demand an end to this madness. We must reject this path to nuclear war and work toward a world where no one has to live in fear of a nuclear holocaust.
Okay. I can get behind that. Seems pretty reasonable. Yeah, I don't want a nuclear holocaust. What about you? Do you want a nuclear holocaust? I don't want a nuclear holocaust. Seems pretty reasonable. But not to people like Mark Levin. Mark Levin disagrees with this. Truly stunning, he says, as he links to an article from the National Review entitled, quote, "The Moral Vacuum Overseeing U.S. National Intelligence." Tulsi Gabbard is the director of national intelligence. So she literally just posted about the horrors of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And the National Review's response, the neocons of the National Review's response is, there's a moral vacuum? Sounds like there's actually an attempt to stand for actual morality where less killing is good, more killing is bad, and the people at the National Review who love war, it doesn't compute. Reset to default settings. Isn't that incredible? They say that she's morally vacuous. Tulsi Gabbard is morally vacuous. In an answer to a question no one asked Donald Trump's director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard released a video message today in which she all but endorsed Barack Obama's revisionist and ahistorical account of the end of the Second World War. What do you mean? You just watched the video. Obviously, there was nuclear fallout. There was radiation. But here's the thing. Let's think about this from a Christian perspective. And one of the people that have decided to do this, as we rethink, there are traditional claims, there are traditional historical facts that we believe about why Harry Truman had to drop the bomb. If you would have been in his situation, you would have dropped the bomb as well, that sort of thing. Let me go back to the original post here. Jack Posobiec quotes Dwight D. Eisenhower. Let's do that first. First, the Japanese were ready to surrender, and it wasn't necessary to hit them with that awful thing. Second, I hated to see our country be the first to use such a weapon. J.D. Hall from Insight to Insight has an interesting post on this, and it is different than the post-World War II idea of thinking about this, especially among Christians. Think about this if you're a Christian. He writes, fun fact, murdering 250,000 civilians and turning babies into glass was not justifiable under historic Christian ethics or by any other metric. The claim that the atomic bombings saved 1 million American lives by avoiding a mainland invasion was a post-war fabrication, inflated to assuage guilt over intentionally targeting civilians en masse. A June 1945 Joint Chiefs of Staff report projected 40,000 U.S. deaths for Operation Olympic, while MacArthur's staff estimated it only slightly higher. The inflated figure you've seen in the textbooks was fabricated in 1947 by Harry Truman's staff, who pulled it squarely off out of their backside. No contemporary military document supports these numbers. Japan's near collapse, starved by blockades, firebombed into ruin, and rattled by Soviet entry in 1945, made surrender likely without the bombs, as confirmed by the 1946 U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey. Convincing the Christian West to abandon Augustine's just war theory to excuse what any theologian would have flatly rejected as unjust at any age prior was necessary to excuse the $2 billion price tag of the Manhattan Project and install a new world order more vicious than the one fought by the Allied powers. That, he goes on to say, that Christians today wink at that atrocity, and some even celebrate it, shows the deep moral need to question the post-war consensus and the mesmerizing slavery of the mind and conscience it holds over us. So this was in response to John Cardillo, who said, I like Tulsi, but she's so far off here. Japan was a brutal, ruthless nation bent on world domination. I mean, that can be true, but it can also be true that we were the first to use the nukes, and we, as you know, collectively have really never come to terms with what that meant. And I think so. This is good. It's good to think through these things. Kind of piggybacking off of our conversation yesterday about the reconciliation that we have, that the gospel provides to answer these tough questions about, you know, why do bad people do bad things in our past, and why do bad people do good things in our past, right? And how it's a mixed bag, but to try to, you know, go back and somehow, like, for example, like I can sit here and say that, yeah, like dropping the bomb on Japan, really something that we should rethink about, you know. But at the same time, I'm not wanting to go and strip down World War II monuments, right? You know, my ancestors fought in that war. So anyway, something to think about. And I've run out of time to cover the Southern Baptist Convention once again. Tomorrow's Friday. We're going to start. Well, we're going to start with the Southern Baptist, regardless of what happened. I can't say that. I mean, there may be something huge. We may drop bombs on Iran tomorrow. Who knows? Tonight. Who knows? But for the most part, what's going to happen? I'll just say we're going to try, because there's stuff I really want to say about what happened at the Southern Baptist Convention this week in Dallas. So we'll do our best to get to that tomorrow. But before we go, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about Curable Premium Health. I'm talking about CBD. I'm talking about cannabis. Not the THC kind that gets you high. I'm talking about CBD. You have within your body a cannabinoid receptor system, meaning this molecular structure of CBD, your body can receive it, and it does amazing things for your body, like fight inflammation, and can even help you sleep. So I want you to do your research. If you've never tried CBD and you're tired of taking Tylenol after Tylenol after Tylenol, not good for your liver, by the way, give CBD a try. They've got muscle cream, which is great for aches and pains. If you are a tennis player or an athlete, you know, soccer, football, whatever, this is incredible stuff. And the potency that you get out of this is second to none for the price, because at Curable, they don't use harmful pesticides and chemicals, but they literally are farmers. They grow it themselves, they extract the hemp, and then they get a third party to test everything that they say about their product. Don't buy your CBD at a gas station. Buy your CBD at Curable. That's Kuribl. That's Kuribl.com, and use promo code Paul20, and when you do, you will save 20%. That's all the time that I got for this edition of the Millstone Report. Thank you so much for being with us. Unless I'm providentially hindered, I will be back here tomorrow delivering you the news, wishing you a happy Friday. Until then, God bless. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
The very foundation of the Christian faith is based